But knowing who to trust can be tough.
This company was just giving me the runaround.
So when your money is under threat and you think you've lost out, Rip-Off Britain is here to help.
We'll be investigating the companies that you say are letting you down.
I was so angry. They took away a lot from me.
And we're taking on the scammers who are causing heartache and misery.
I was such a mess. Somebody's just taken all my life savings out of my account.
So whether it's a mistake that's left you out of pocket or a blatant rip-off, we're here to help you find out what you can do about it. This is Rip-Off Britain.
Hello and welcome to Rip-Off Britain, where, as always, our team is hot on the trail of the scammers who'll do whatever it takes to get rich at your expense.
Including today the fraudsters using your Facebook account to appear to be above board, but then con people in your name. And the copycats costing some small business owners their entire living.
These companies are taking the time, the love, the effort that we put into our work. They're stealing all that effort that we've put in.
Plus Action Fraud, the National Reporting Service for Fraud and Cybercrime. Now, you might think it will step in and, well, take action if you've been scammed, but I'm afraid you could be wrong, because we'll be meeting one man who was so frustrated with what didn't happen after he reported his scam that he took action himself to make sure the fraudster was brought to justice.
And tech expert David McClelland is going to be talking people power as he unpacks some of the scam warnings that you've been sending to us.
But first today, concert tickets, particularly hotly contested ones. Glasgow, anyone? Didn't
Not
think
for me.
so. Well, actually, on that subject, what's the concert that you guys would have loved to have gone to but didn't manage to?
Well, going way, way back, I just adore Frank Sinatra. And he was at the Albert Hall with Dean Martin and Liza Minnelli. And I bought tickets for friends and our family. And they all went, and I didn't because I was in hospital.
Ooh, I did see him.
Oh, lucky you
But
then.
I tell you what, I would love to have seen Tina Turner in concert one more time. I did see her live, and she was just magic.
I know what you mean. Well, some concert tickets are in such high demand that any which come up for resale can fetch staggering amounts. And that, of course, is music to the ears of the scammers.
She's one of the biggest pop stars on the planet, with a record-breaking stadium extravaganza, where she'll perform hits from her entire back catalogue. Taylor Swift's Eras Tour is the hottest ticket in town.
Love this album. It's got my favourite tracks on it. Used to play it all the time in halls in university, like on repeat. That was just the best.
So when the tour was announced, school teacher Simone Holland from Devon simply had to get tickets.
It goes through every era of her music. And when she announced it, I thought, right, okay, get online, get in those waiting rooms and sign up for pre-release.
But despite her best efforts, for Simone and hordes of other disappointed Swifties, 2023 turned out to be a cruel summer, as the tour sold out in minutes.
I was trying to be like, okay, you've missed the shot for the Eras tour, but there'll be other tours. But I was gutted.
Simone tried to shake it off and kept her eyes peeled for unwanted tickets being put up for sale online. And in September, she spotted a post in a local Facebook group that she hoped would make her wildest dreams come true.
I have 4 front-standing tickets for Taylor Swift, £175 each. I'd completely resigned myself to not going, and then this post comes up, and I was so excited.
Simone knew all too well that scammers operated on Facebook, so she decided to check out the seller's profile.
She was tagged in things from university, tagged in posts from friends. It went back to 2007. It was all above board.
But even with that information, a cautious Simone approached the seller with her worries, who replied with links to other online profiles and even her place of work.
I asked for the proof of purchase, and they sent me the screenshots straight away. Again, all looked completely legitimate.
Feeling confident, Simone transferred £350 for 2 tickets. But then the seller told her the transaction had failed and sent a screenshot that she said proved it. But the seller urged Simone to send the cash again, which she did, this time checking with her bank, Santander, that it had all gone through. But the seller's next request rang alarm bells. She told Simone it would cost £70 to change the name on the tickets, and shared a screenshot supposedly from the original ticket seller, Ticketmaster.
So I got in touch with Ticketmaster myself, and they said, absolutely not. What you've just shown us is completely inauthentic. Do not send any more money. And I felt sick. That was the moment I knew I'd been scammed.
Simone thought that all her research into the seller would protect her. But when she delved even deeper, after the scam, she hit on the truth. The original owner of the Facebook account had been locked out of their profile.
Their husband put a post saying she doesn't have tickets to sell, that she doesn't have access to the account. He said that we've informed Facebook and the police. I feel very emotional. I feel like an idiot, but I know that I'm not, and I know that they are scamming lots of people.
Julie Brown from Oxfordshire was one of those on the other side of the coin in this clever con. Her problems first began in March 2023, when she received a notification from Facebook stating that her account's password had just been reset from a web browser in Vietnam. She was now locked out of her account.
I made contact with Facebook straight away several times, had no response from Facebook. It really worried me, and I had real concerns about what these people could do with my information.
Unable to get help from Facebook and not knowing where else she could turn, Julie reluctantly accepted she might never get back into her account. Then, 6 months after the account was hacked, something strange happened.
I started receiving messages from friends and family asking me was I selling Taylor Swift tickets. Obviously it wasn't me. I just couldn't believe that someone was pretending to be me, trying to get people to buy these tickets.
And to make matters worse, some who fell victim blamed Julie, as she found out later from messages sent to her contacts.
I found it really upsetting. I've had messages saying that, you know, I've scammed their son or I've scammed them out of, you know, £100, £90. People who don't know me as a person don't realise that it's actually not me.
In a bid to stop more people falling for it, Julie's daughter posted a warning on Facebook. But Julie believes more than 20 people have lost money to people posing as her.
I do feel as if it's damaging my reputation. It's made me quite anxious, actually.
Julie reported the scam to the police and, still locked out, asked friends to report her hacked account to Facebook. But the tech giant has yet to take any action.
I feel quite frustrated that Facebook have done nothing to help. I feel I had to get that message out to Facebook to help people and to stop them from becoming a victim of this scam.
But the victims might not find it easy to get their money back if their experience is anything like Simone's. Santander refused to refund the £350 she'd spent on non-existent tickets because she approved the transaction. Now she wants fellow Swifties to be aware of the dangers of trying to find second-hand tickets on social media.
My advice for anybody looking to buy tickets is to use a reputable ticket distributor. I think there are other people that could be saved by hearing my story, and that it will help other people not make the same mistakes that I did.
We did, of course, try to speak to Facebook's parent company, Meta, about Simone and Julie's cases, but we didn't get a response to our questions, nor did Julie get any help to reinstate her account.
Meanwhile, after we sent Simone's bank, Santander, additional information about the steps she took to verify the seller before handing over any cash, it reviewed its original decision, and I'm very pleased to say it's now refunded her in full. Santander also told us it has the utmost sympathy for the victims of scams and that it's given Simone advice on how to spot them in the future.
And I'm now joined by Adam Webb from Fanfare Alliance, an organisation funded by the music industry, which says it wants to see much tighter regulation when it comes to the sale of secondary tickets at inflated prices. Adam, I know that your agency wants to stop that happening, but surely the hype that's associated with so many of these tickets and their scarcity really makes them, in the sort of resale market, a playground for scammers.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that's where the challenge is, I think. On the one hand, obviously, you've got these very, very high demand events and a fear of missing out, all these kind of factors which are driving demand, which on one level is great, it's growing the business. But obviously that does attract, a lot of bad actors, fraudsters, etc. And obviously that's a big challenge for artists and the teams that they work with to combat that.
Well, Adam, some of the prices for tickets on these sites are eye-watering. The figures are staggering. I mean, our researchers have found that the secondary tickets to see Taylor Swift at Wembley, we looked at Viagogo and StubHub, the two biggest secondary ticket platforms in the country at the moment. Viagogo had tickets with a face value of £175, which is not cheap to start. The cheapest one we found was £826. The most expensive was £2,682. And at StubHub, there were tickets with a face value of £387, selling for at least £1,220, and one at an incredible £18,000. What do you make of that? How are you going to stop that?
I mean, our campaign's been running since 2016. I've actually made a lot of progress in the UK in terms of better application of regulation and of the law. But I think we have now come to the conclusion that, like a lot of other countries, and Ireland being the most recent, is actually you've got to have legislation to outlaw ticket resale for profit.
Now, as I understand it, there's a close association between your group and another resale platform. Those proposals that you have would benefit that platform, wouldn't they? And Viagogo say, well, why should you have the benefit of that?
Well, no. I think Viagogo are making a slightly odd accusation there. The live music industry has an umbrella group which represents, all of the ticket companies, all of the agents, the promoters, the venues. They came out with a manifesto for government, point 4 of which is, protect fans from ticket touts. This is an industry-wide thing. Ticketmaster, Access, C-Tickets, all of the other big ticket companies offer capped resale. That's the market that we want to see, blossom and gain root.
Adam says those major ticketing platforms and more now offer resale tickets at or close to face value by allowing the original customer to sell on tickets that they're no longer able to use. What's more, many artists now stagger the release of their tickets to give fans more chances to get hold of them.
So there are opportunities there, and I think this idea that the only place to get the tickets is from one of the secondary sites is not true. There should be some more available through the official channel.
And those people that do have tickets and will be able to go to the concerts will have a fabulous night.
They will have a fabulous time.
Thank you very much indeed.
No problem.
We put Adam's points on secondary ticket sellers to STAR, the Society of Ticket Agents and Retailers, which represents many of them. It told us that fans should always buy from a reputable ticket seller, and that they can find official sellers through the artists' or venues' websites. STAR also said that buying from sellers signed up to its code of practice will give customers access to its alternative dispute resolution service. StubHub and Viagogo both told us that they enable customers to safely and securely buy and resell tickets, and that prices are set by sellers. StubHub added that users have sold Taylor Swift tickets for prices as low as £61 and on average for £550, adding that it provides a critical alternative to the resale of tickets on social media sites or street corners that offer no consumer protections. And in the event a customer does not receive a valid ticket, it will provide a replacement or a full refund. Meanwhile, Viagogo said that the face value of each ticket is displayed beside every listing, and that the tickets listed for extremely high prices will rarely sell. Viagogo added that countries which have banned secondary ticket platforms have seen a significant rise in social media ticket scams, and it believes the only viable option is a safe, regulated marketplace where tickets are bought and sold with the guarantee that fans will get into an event or get their money back.
Well, from one story about the impact of your Facebook account being hijacked to another. Well, in the advice clinic with me now, I have fraud lawyer Aaron Shohan. It's always nice to see you here, and hope actually that Aaron can help me with Steve Webb, who's joining us now from his home in Southampton with another Facebook-related issue. So, Steve, also welcome to you.
Oh, it's nice to speak to you guys.
Now, I know that you have a tuk-tuk business, and that's one of them in the background.
We have a hire business, so people hire our vehicles for film and TV, for parties, for weddings, all sorts of things.
So what happened exactly?
So this message came through the Facebook business suite saying, oh, I might have gone against community guidelines. So then I clicked on link, put my date of birth, and I answered a couple of questions. And then I woke up the next day, my business page had gone. And then I had a text from my bank saying, you just spent £1,000 on Facebook advertising. Do you want to spend another 400? So at that point, I realised my account has been hacked.
So what action did you take then when you realised your Facebook page had gone?
I immediately sought to contact Facebook, which is quite a challenge, actually. There's very few methods of being in touch with them.
But has anybody said why the Facebook page was taken off?
No, nothing at all. The fraudulent activity was obviously reported by my bank and lost £1,000, which I've now been paid back by the bank.
So let's bring Aaron in at this point. Have you come across this before?
I have seen this kind of thing before. Hackers have long attacked that kind of soft security of individuals to circumnavigate the kind of tighter security that's applied to businesses that are linked to these Facebook accounts. So, Steve, if I'm right, you had your business card linked to your Facebook account, did you?
I did, yeah.
Right. That's how the fraudsters have made these transactions.
So is that something that you should not do?
So we've got to be extra careful, knowing that your business card's linked and the way that your own personal security can be compromised to get into your business. And that's what's happening here.
So, Steve, when you realised that the Facebook page had gone, how did you react?
It's devastating. As a small business owner, we do rely on social media. I've, entertained Facebook for 15 years. It's got loads of reviews on, so immediately I'm thinking, how's the customer going to look to do a check on me to see that I've done a good job? So you start to worry. It's hard to swallow, hard to deal with.
Yeah, I think, Steve, you should be continuing to push with Facebook and you should be making the points that you're losing out on business.
We've tried to contact Meta on Steve's behalf, but we've had absolutely no reply from anybody there. But I want to let you know, Steve, that rest assured that we will keep on the case and we'll do our very best for you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Aaron. Now, a lot of people have a dream of turning their hobby or their passion into an income. And the people in our next film actually had the talent and the energy to do just that. But when online marketplaces run by giant global mega corporations based halfway around the world started selling poor imitations of their work for literally a fraction of the price, it wasn't just their pocket that took the hit. In thousands of spare rooms, in homes up and down the UK, artisan crafters are carefully producing one-off pieces with a little bit of themselves invested in every item. Like Emma Farley from York. She started her business making bespoke handmade jewellery back in 2014.
I work a mixture of silver clay. You can do anything with it. You can model it, you can sculpt it, which is what I'm doing now, basically creating a little tiny hedgehog. And I create completely unique pieces.
And with some of the money she makes, Emma puts it back into saving her spiky friends.
My work involves taking a sick or an injured hedgehog and basically nursing it back to health. It's really incredibly expensive. Vet bills, food costs, equipment costs. So the jewellery is a way to raise the funds needed to continue and carry on that work.
Meanwhile, a little over 100 miles away in the East Midlands, sewing and knitting pattern designer Henry Van Wyck is busy putting the finishing touches to her latest creation.
I design them from scratch. I come up with an idea about a garment and then I would start by drawing it out and I would turn it into a publishable pattern that I can sell.
Both Emma and Henry's home-run businesses keep them busy. But their unique designs haven't just caught the eye of potential customers. Both women have fallen foul of copycats. In July 2023, Emma discovered images from her website on the giant online marketplace Shein.
I was completely shocked. I had no idea, really, that this kind of thing happened at all. They're selling an exact replica, but basically just a really, really cheap version. I'm into recycled silver I use. Everything is unique, everything is bespoke, and I'm just devastated that people would see the images of my jewellery thinking that's what they're going to receive.
One of Emma's online followers reported the images to Shein, and the listings were removed. But then, just days later, the images popped up again on another large-scale website, AliExpress.
So looking here, £1.18 you can buy these for, so absolutely cheapening my brand. It's heartbreaking to see my images on another site against everything I stand for.
It was a seller on another massive online marketplace that Henry discovered using her images, Temu, and it couldn't get more personal because the pictures stolen from her online shop were of Henry herself.
I don't yet have the budget to be able to hire models and other professional photographers. So I do my own photography. I tend to photograph the garments on myself. And so there I was, this photographs of me that has taken my time, my effort to produce, to edit, to get online, and they were on their website.
Worse still, the seller on Temu wasn't selling her patterns, but products that purported to be the garments themselves and at rock-bottom prices, including one of her signature patterns.
So it sells for around £9 that you can download the pattern and then sew your garment. They were selling the actual garment at £9. So clearly it could not have been produced to the same level.
And therein lies the rub. If you're thinking you could bag Henry's designs or Emma's handiwork for a fraction of what they would charge, then think again. The products being peddled by these online giants are a very poor imitation of the real thing, as Emma discovered when she placed an order for her copycat jewellery.
These are mass-produced and actually soulless. When you look at the earrings that they're selling, you know, their eyes are stuck on, there isn't the time and the love that goes into them like there is with mine.
While the first set of copycats she found on Shein were quickly taken down, Emma really struggled to find any way to raise her complaint with AliExpress about the earrings she bought. And when Henry attempted to get her photographs removed from Temu, she was amazed at the lengths she had to go to.
I had to go and collect screenshots of their listing on their website, and then I had to show that image alongside an image from my own website. For me to have to take out half a day to go and prove to them something that was quite obvious was frustrating.
And that was just for one product. Both Henry and Emma are on high alert for the next time that their copycats strike.
For me, the biggest issue is that they're taking ideas from small business people and profiting massively from this.
These companies are taking the time, the love, the effort that we put into our work. They're stealing all that effort that we've put in.
Now, when we spoke to Shein about Emma's case, it told us that as soon as it was alerted to the copyright infringement, it removed the product from sale and has apologised to Emma. Meanwhile, AliExpress told us that it works with owners of intellectual property, like Emma and Henry, to protect their rights, and has a number of ways they can tell the platform about breaches. Temu told us that after Henry's reports, it removed the item from sale and added images of 23 of her products to its own image recognition database in order to promptly detect and address any future violations. And with me to discuss this issue is small business expert Kate Hardcastle. So you've seen all the circumstances. It is heartbreaking. How prevalent is this whole thing?
It's becoming more so. I mean, just think back 18 months ago. We really didn't hear of Temu, Shein, these brands that have dominated and become so powerful. And that's because of their reach on social media. But when we see the hard work and effort of these small businesses and just how much time it's taken, and that's stolen away from them by simply a cut, copy, paste piece by these organisations, it troubles me. It's not right.
So what can small businesses do to try and protect themselves?
Firstly, I would make sure my intellectual property was protected. And a really good way to do that is a watermark through the image. Using a very simple tool online to be able to make sure that perhaps your name or your trademark or your business name is seeped into the image. So it doesn't impact the image too much, but it's very difficult to replicate that image with that embedded in it. And that's going to help you to protect it in the first place. Then obviously it's all about going out there and making sure that if you see any replication of it, you defend it to the hilt.
If shoppers spot that this is not quite right, it's all different prices and doesn't look right, what can they do?
If the price point doesn't look right, there's a reason for that. And that could be the materials used, it could be the craftsmanship, but also the intellectual property. So don't buy. If you think those images don't look as if they belong to that organisation, if you've the time, take them to task, write to them.
I do feel very sorry for the artists involved, really do. But thank you very much for your information. Thanks, Kate. We put all of this to Temu, AliExpress and Shein, and they all stressed how serious they are about intellectual property protection. AliExpress and Temu both said they have robust systems in place to take action when notified of breaches, adding that subsequent action could include sellers being banned from their platform. Temu also told us that before setting up their stores, sellers commit to adhering to strict legal standards and regulations, and that throughout their time with the platform, they are continually guided in the importance of intellectual property rights. And Shein told us that it has significantly reduced the number of infringement claims through controls such as image recognition and manual review to identify potential breaches and improvements to the process of reporting potential claims.
Now, as we always say, we simply would not be here without your stories. They really do make our programme. So whatever your consumer conundrum, do get in touch with us, please. Our email address is ripoffbritain@bbc.co.uk. Or, of course, you can always send us a message on Facebook, where we are very simply BBC Rip Off Britain.
And on top of that, don't forget, you can also write to us. Now, the address is Rip Off Britain, BBC, Media City UK, Salford, M50-2BH. But please don't enclose any of those original documents, because sadly we can't return them. They're just too precious.
Time now for another visit to the Advice Clinic, dedicating expert brain power to the problems you send us every day. Well, here in the Advice Clinic with me is tech expert David McClellan. David, welcome. Now, as well as people asking for our help, we often get people who send us warnings about scams that they've spotted and luckily not fallen for. First up is Joan Patton, who says she received an email which looked as if it was from her email provider, asking her to secure her account by going through what's called a two-factor authentication. But Joan was a bit suspicious, so she called the firm and learned it was a scam. So, lucky escape for her. David, are scammers using security concerns to lure in people? Is that becoming more common?
Yes, unfortunately it is. And Joan did exactly the right thing there. Personally, I get emails exactly like this several times a week across the various email accounts.
How does the scam actually work?
Well, many of us, we rely on our email for sending and receiving messages, but also for logging into all of the online services, from our online banking to our gas bills. And so naturally, they are a prized target for fraudsters. And often, as in the case here, there is urgency in the text of the email. You know, suspicious activity detected. Act now to confirm account ownership, otherwise you'll lose your account. That sort of thing, all appealing to a sense of emotion and panic. So the flow varies, but typically You click on the link, you're asked to enter in your username and password. You might be challenged to get that little two-factor authentication code from your mobile. You're handing that over, not to your email website, but to the fraudster, and they will use those details for identity fraud, to try and hack into your other accounts and to create all kinds of mischief.
Really, really sinister stuff. Well, what would you say to someone who got an email like that?
In cybersecurity, this is my current message. It's about never trust, always verify. Don't click on the link in the message. Instead, go to your email provider's webpage and log in through there.
Good one. Well, the next viewer warning came from somebody called Marion, who says that she was on her laptop and this message, which we're about to see, appeared on the screen with, as she says, a very strident female voice telling me my account had been compromised and was locked. She says she was told not to close the laptop, but to call the number on the screen, but she didn't. And she found another number for Microsoft and learnt that way that it was a scam. I mean, Marion found that whole business really scary, and I presume the fear factor is what the scammers are banking on.
Yeah, the fear factor, the panic getting us to act emotionally rather than rationally is exactly their tactic here. And in this version of the scam, it's a pop-up that appears in your web browser. That could be because the web page that you're visiting is just serving dodgy ads, or it could be that your device has been compromised.
Is there any way you can avoid it?
Well, to a degree. First thing I would say is make sure that any security software on your device is up to date, because that can stop a lot of these pop-ups in their tracks. But if one of these does pop up, you might be wondering whether it's a real message or not. I've spoken with Microsoft a lot about this in the past, and it says that it will never put a pop-up like this on your screen with a phone number for you to call. That is an absolute big red flag.
Invaluable advice, David, and well done to Marion and Joan for telling us about it and for their lucky escapes.
Now, if you're unlucky enough to fall for a scam, then having spoken to the police, the next place that you're likely to turn to is Action Fraud. Now, that's the official body that was set up to counter cybercrime. And you might think that in doing so, it would actually trigger some form of investigation and further action. But back in 2019, we met some fraud victims who felt that inaction fraud might be a better name for the organisation. But really, it is just a system where you report fraud. So shortly, we're going to be hearing about some big moves on the horizon, which could change all of that. But first, here's a reminder of that original film.
It's a phone call nobody ever wants to make. But if you've fallen prey to a scammer, reporting the crime to Action Fraud is usually one of the first things you'll be told to do.
On that boat, that was a good day.
And it's a call Michael Billington was forced into making in 2018. Having spent years building up a nest egg of savings, he and his wife Liz had planned to invest it to help not just with their own retirement, but to provide for their grown-up children too.
They've still got a big mortgage, so we were hoping that there'd be something, you know, a nice sum of money to split between them.
Michael painstakingly researched where he could invest the couple's £170,000 in savings and came across an FCA-regulated private bank which was advertising guaranteed returns of 6%. Little did he know, however, that the website into which he entered his details wasn't the real bank website, but a copycat, set up by scammers. And the supposed bank representatives Michael frequently spoke to were crooks who stole all the couple's money.
At that particular moment, I felt dreadful. A life's work had just been given away.
It would have happened to anybody. I mean, I'd okayed it all the way down the line. And, you know, you just don't expect people to do that kind of thing, do you? You know, it's just so well done.
Michael's bank would not refund him the money, saying that however sophisticated the scam was, it had been his decision to make the transfer. Instead, it advised him to contact Action Fraud. In England, Wales and Northern Ireland, that's the central reporting system to which all fraud victims are urged to report scams, whereas in Scotland, Police Scotland is responsible. Michael was hoping Action Fraud might help to track down his money and bring the scammers to book.
I really didn't know what to expect. I hoped that, as a crime, it would be investigated to the fullest extent and the perpetrators brought to justice.
Action Fraud sends every report to the National Fraud Intelligence Bureau, which identifies potential lines of inquiry and passes the strongest cases to individual police forces. But Michael says what wasn't made clear to him at the time was that Action Fraud itself doesn't have any investigative powers, something that became clear when he rang them up to report his crime.
There was no tangible suggestions from Action Fraud as to who would help or whether they would help any further.
You didn't feel as though an investigation was taking place at all, did you?
No.
You know, you'd expect some evidence of something going on to help get it back, whether they were successful or not, they were doing something. But we just felt nothing was being done, didn't we?
Action Fraud did call back 2 weeks later to say that his case had been passed on to Greater Manchester Police and that there was nothing more it could do. A response that Michael and Liz feel is woefully inadequate.
I think victims do deserve more than a 4-minute phone call. I'd like to have seen someone in person and felt that somebody was going to keep in contact with us and let us know how the investigation was going and if we had any chance of getting any money back.
At the time, Action Fraud told us that it received 900,000 reports a year, each of which is put into a database, interrogated, and where possible, sent out to police forces for investigation. Action Fraud stressed that while not all cases are investigated, every piece of intelligence and information is valuable, and that its role collating and analysing it all is crucial in bringing criminals to justice and preventing fraud. Just a few months later, and no thanks to Action Fraud, Michael and Liz did get their £170,000 refunded to them by their bank after referring their case to the Financial Ombudsman. But we're still hearing from people hugely disappointed with Action Fraud. Stephen Johnson from Stockton-on-Tees also struggled to find the right kind of help after becoming a victim to online fraud. In January 2019, he and over 100 others met a supposed crypto trading expert on Facebook. Sold by the promise of a potentially hefty payout, the group paid in Bitcoin installments, but after an initial win, the online presence of their so-called expert disappeared. And so did their Bitcoin. For Stephen, the equivalent of around £3,000. Desperate to find help and try to recover his money, he turned to Action Fraud. And Stephen is with me now, and we're joined by fraud lawyer Aaron Chowan. Stephen, tell me what happened when you reported it to Action Fraud.
Well, just over 30 of us at the time submitted individual reports. We included copies of the dossier that had been put together, and we got an email back saying that it'll be reviewed and we should hear back within 28 days.
And?
90 days later, and we heard nothing. After various contacts with them and emails back, we eventually, one of them got a letter saying there wasn't enough evidence.
In Action Fraud, possibly the more accurate description. So then you were forced to take action yourself?
Yes, I searched around for solicitors that had a walk-in clinic and went and asked there, and they took copies of all the paperwork. And then 3 days later, I get a phone call, "Can you come into the office, please? We're interested in your case." And everything's gone on from there.
Have you had any satisfaction at all?
Yes, eventually we got this person to court, and he pleaded guilty to 7 counts of fraud. Now we've got to wait for proceeds of crime and see if they find anything. Right. Hopefully we might get something back. I don't know.
So in this case, much more action provided by a no-win, no-fee solicitor. And that means until Stephen gets some money back, he doesn't have to pay a penny for their help. Well, based on your experience, what would your advice be to somebody else who might find themselves in a similar situation as you did?
If you don't get any response from Action Fraud, try and go the same route we did and find a good solicitor. Because it can be done, you can take private prosecutions out. And if you've got the evidence to back it up, it's worth a try.
Aaron, what's your take on all this?
Well, I mean, firstly, Stephen, I'm really sorry you've fallen foul of a fraudster and lost money, but I'm even more sorry that Action Fraud has been so ineffective for you, because that was never meant to be how this was set up. Sadly, it's par for the course. They don't engage, they don't update. And there's been a misconception for years about what Action Fraud was. and what it is. And that's been the problem. You're never going to get through action fraud to a place where the police are going to be looking at it unless it's certain circumstances, identifiable criminals and assets. And it makes it really, really unfortunate for victims like Stephen.
When we spoke to Action Fraud about Stephen's case, it told us that the reports were not passed on to a police force because they contained limited information which was not sufficient to progress the report further. However, since then, it goes on, the criteria by which reports are addressed have changed, and it is highly likely that the same report made today would be passed to a police force to consider investigative opportunities. Action Fraud also said it has now improved the quality of information given to victims to explain what could happen after they make a report. But in light of the fact it handles more than 30,000 reports every month, it is unable to provide a personalised response to each person. However, in a move that should please many people, Action Fraud is soon set for an overhaul.
In 2023, the government have done a fraud review. So in the future, action fraud is going to be changed. There's going to be better reporting for victims, more engagement, and hopefully more crooks are going to be taken out of the system.
Well, I'm sure Stephen is very happy to hear that.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Aaron, and thank you very much, Stephen. And to find out more about how Action Fraud is set to change, it's over to the other side of the studio and Gloria.
Thank you, Julia. Now, I'm joined today by Catherine Westmore, Senior Research Fellow at the Royal United Services Institute. Very nice to have you with us on the programme, Catherine. I know that you've been keeping a very close eye on the new strategy from the government and what's being called the rebooted Action Fraud. But what will change?
So the government is committed to introducing a new service, which should make it easier for victims to report fraud. And it will also make it much easier for them to track the progress of the case. There will also be some upgrades to things like the call centre to reduce call waiting times and provide victims of fraud with a much better experience. And we also hope that this new Action Fraud will be able to pass information to local police forces as well as banks more quickly, which will give them a better chance of catching the fraudster or recovering the money that's been stolen.
Will it be a proper overhaul? And how much money will actually be dedicated to this new fraud section?
So in terms of Action Fraud, we anticipate that around 150 million will be spent over the next 5 years to establish and run this new service, which includes a mixture of investment from the Home Office, from the government, and from the City of London Police, who run this service.
So will this new Action Fraud actually take action?
I like to think it will. With the amount of money that's being invested in it and the technology that it has access to, it really should make a difference. And one of the real benefits of having a centralised reporting system in the first place is that ability to analyse lots of data, analyse all the reports that are presented to it. So hopefully this new Action Fraud will really help us all to protect ourselves from fraud.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. When we spoke to Action Fraud about the planned changes, it said that they will improve the quality and timeliness of its service, as well as opportunities to review reports, identify lines of inquiry, and send allegations of fraud to police forces across the country.
Well, I'm afraid we're almost out of time for today, but rest assured we will be back very soon, putting some of the very best consumer brains in the business to work on the problems that you tell us about.
So if you've got an issue you'd like us to investigate, I know you know the address by now, but here's a reminder just in case. It's ripoffbritain@bbc.co.uk. You never know, could be your story we're looking into next time.
So until then, thank you so much for being with us today. And from everybody on the Rip Off Britain team, bye-bye.
Goodbye.